Did you know that the number one skill sought by employers in 2019 is the ability to collaborate? That's right, employers more than anything else want people who know how to work on a team, who know how to get along with people who they don't necessarily like, who know how to come up with ideas and work in groups and give critical feedback and receive critical feedback and hold each other accountable. Employers want people who know how to collaborate. And this also makes me think about the state of our world right now. I mean, there is just this desperate need for people who know how to collaborate. There's like this deficit of teamwork ability. People, I mean, just look at politics. There's just this lack of compromise happening. Or you go on social media and people don't know how to just have good discussions anymore. It's just fighting and caps lock and just not really listening to what other people have to say. People are struggling to collaborate, even though we have all of these tools and resources in our world to do it very, very well, to stay connected. It kind of feels like we're more disconnected than ever, right? We need more collaboration. And that makes me think about school. Because, at least in my own school experience, growing up as a kid and then being a teacher myself, school is not a very collaborative environment. Maybe some are, but at least the ones that I've been exposed to on a broad scale are very much about the individual, right? It's about individual grades, individual achievement, individual success. Very little is actually focused on the collective, on community. Seating traditionally has been in rows, so you can sit by yourself and pay attention so that you can get the grade, so that you can move to the next level, so you can go on to the next grade or graduate. And it's not about the success of everybody else, which has implications because now we have a world that doesn't seem very collaborative, where people don't have these skills. I was just reading recently that one of the number one reasons that millennials are fired is that they don't possess this vital skill, this soft skill, this essential skill that we all desperately need. So how do we do it? How do we make sure that our students leave our schools knowing how to work with others, knowing how to compromise and give and take, knowing how to sit down and combine brains and resources to come up with the very best outcomes? It's interesting as you read research, and it shows that the very best learning is done when it's in a group, when it's done in community in some way. So I don't think that by having collaborative work in school means having to sacrifice strong learning. In fact, students learn better when they do it in groups. They collaborate better. They're learning how to work better together, but then they're also still learning the subject matter and content because it's done in community. Now, if you're still watching this and you're an educator, you might say, yeah, I know all this stuff. I've heard it before. Everybody tells me that we need to have more collaboration in school. It's obvious. We need better collaborators. But have you ever tried group projects? Right? Have you ever had to deal with a group of 4 kids who are doing nothing? They're just like slacking. They're like logs who just lay there and just don't get any work done. Do you know what it's like to teach a group of kids like that? Or how about those kids who just take over and insist on doing all of the work and don't let anybody else do anything? And then it's like, well, this might as well have just been an individual project. Have you ever tried to lead a class like that? Or have you ever had to try to assess collaboration? Have you ever tried to have a productive hour where kids are actually managing their own time and working in groups? You might be asking these questions like, yeah, I know kids should collaborate, but I also know that teaching collaboration and having group work in my classroom and not losing my mind in the process is difficult. So let me just answer and say, yes. Yes to all of that. I've dealt with all of that with my own students in the high school level, in the middle school level, in the college level. I get it. Collaboration is difficult. I didn't like it when I was a kid because I felt like I was always doing all the work. Or I was just slacking and somebody else was doing all the work and I'd feel guilty about it, but it was easy enough to just let them do it. I didn't like it as a kid, and a lot of the time I didn't like it as a teacher until I started figuring out what I needed to do to make it more productive. Until I started learning some tools and resources and processes to use in my own classroom where students could learn to manage their time together, where students could learn to collaborate effectively. And when I started doing some of these things and using some of these tools like a group group contract that students signed and made agreements with each other before doing any collaborative work, or the project management log, which is basically a spreadsheet where students can organize and manage their time with each other. Or I started using processes like tuning, where students could give each other critical feedback in a non-threatening, productive way. When I started doing these things, all of a sudden collaboration stopped being this chore, stopped being this dreaded thing I had to do in the classroom, and it turned into something that made my classroom this rich, beautiful, dynamic, transformative experience. And so that's what I think we need to do. We got to find ways to make collaboration successful for our students. And yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's not as easy sometimes as just having kids sit in rows and the teacher stand in the front of the room and talking while they take notes. Yes, it might not be as easy as that, but it's so necessary, right? It is so absolutely vital that we teach students how to do it now so that they can do it the rest of their lives. So that we can have a political system that's actually functional. So that we can have a social media that's actually productive and constructive and builds us up and can be used in dynamic and useful ways. So that we can have a society that functions well together. So that we can stop making school about I and instead more about us. Where we can make learning more communal. More of a community where students are learning and working together. So that's what my new book, The Collaborative Classroom, is all about. How to teach collaboration to our students and teach it in a way where we don't rip our hair out as teachers, where we don't lose sleep because we feel like we're losing our students' engagement because they're working in groups, but instead the type of collaboration that actually makes learning better. So check it out, it's on Amazon. But I'd also just encourage you to just dig into more and more resources and ways to make classroom more collaborative.